Hello, everyone, and welcome to Beinecke Illuminated. I'm your host, Tubyez Cropper. Today, you can see we are not in the same place that we were in for the past two episodes. We are in a new area because the object that we're looking at today is not able to just be transported through boxes. So for those of you who have missed the first episode, Beinecke Illuminated is a podcast where I talk to different individuals in our Beinecke staff about their favorite items in this vast collection that we have here. So today I have
Matthew Beacom.
Matthew. How are you? Good?
I'm good today, Tubyez. Thank you very much for having me here.
Wonderful. So before we actually get up and look at the map, just give us a quick summary of what the map is and why you decided to choose this as your item.
Okay. The map is the Clark of Lewis and Clark expedition. Clark's map of that part of the continent that the Lewis and Clark expedition traveled across. And he drew it in 1810, and as you can see, it's a large-scale map. It's part of a collection here. It's Western Americana Manuscript 303, which is about 80-plus maps that were drawn mostly during the expedition itself, so they were drawn on site as the expedition made its way to the Pacific Ocean from St. Louis and back. This was done after the expedition had returned and was a full-scale map, not just a map of a section of the journey, but of the entire landscape of the West. That's what the map is. It came to us through William Robertson Coe, a collector and donor to the Yale University Library. He donated it to us in the early 1950s, and so it predates the creation of the Beinecke Library itself.
Wonderful.
And why is it my favorite?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. There's two reasons, and they're both kind of strange. At least to my mind, they're kind of strange. The first one is that this map is on a wall in a meeting room, a classroom. It used to be on a wall in a meeting room, and when I started working at Beinecke, I would have meetings in that room very frequently. I'd look at the map, and so it was one of the objects in our collection that is most, I've seen the most times. I've never had to call for it. It's not hanging in storage someplace. It's just on the wall. I walk into the room. It was hung in, room 28. And have a meeting, and I would look at it. So I would maybe see it several times every week. So as I saw it every day, I thought it was a beautiful object. Yeah. And it was an amazing historical document, a little bit like, these are on a larger astronomical scale, but there was recently a photograph taken of a black hole that had never been seen before. There was recently the first time that we've ever recorded a gravity wave, and that would never happen before. This is the first time anybody saw, in that sense, the western half of the United States, right, yeah, before the United States went that far. And so it's an epical moment, and so it's amazing from that point of view. I think it's physically a beautiful object. Yes. I love it. But the kicker is that in the expedition, only one member of the expedition died. His last name was Floyd, and he was a sergeant, so he's known as Sergeant Floyd. And his gravesite is marked on this map. And his gravesite, they named a river that flowed near that grave Floyd's River. And I grew up alongside of Floyd's River in Leeds, a town that's near Sioux City, Iowa. So when I look at this map, I can find my hometown. I can find the river marked that I used to play in when I was a boy. We'd trap muskrats, we'd take rifles and shotguns down to the river and shoot things when we were boys. And the river also flooded. The day my family moved into their house, the next day, that river flooded. Kind of bad luck, bad timing.
Right.
So that was it. This is what I think is funny about my attraction to it. It's convenient. It's the map that was the easiest object in the collection for me to see. So that's ridiculous that I love it because it was convenient. And the other is that I could find myself in the map. So the map became about me. So it's just narcissism and convenience. that make this my favorite object in the Beinecke collection.
Right. I mean, but an item of this magnitude and of, that has such an important part in history, I don't look at it as being narcissistic. I mean, it's amazing just to see that the place you grew up happens to be
Marked on this map.
marked on this 1810 map, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and that's not something everybody could say that they have.
Yeah, that's right. And I think that I'm glad you're mentioning that, because the thing that I think is amazing is not that I can find me on this map, but that in a more general sense, this historic object and the moment that it was part of, I can connect to it in a really deeply personal way. But that there's this personal connection to me, to this part of the history of this country. And that old event over 200 years ago, they did that exploration. And I can find the area where my mother's family had their farm. I can see part of the trip that my family took from New Orleans up the Mississippi River to Dubuque, Iowa, and then came across Iowa to Jackson, Nebraska, and found that. So I can look at this object and find not only my personal history here and in the national history of our country, I can find that. And I think that connection to find the personal in the national, in the historic, and in the aesthetic is really, really interesting, and is why I love it.
Perfect. All right. So we're actually going to get up close to the map, and Matt is going to show us the part where he grew up and any other parts of the map that he would like to talk about. All right. So why don't you take us through the specific part of the map that you grew up?
All right. Well, I think what I wanted to start with first is say, what does the map cover?
Right, of course.
So here on the eastern edges, we see the Great Lakes, Lake Huron, Lake Superior, Lake Michigan right here. This is where Chicago would be, and down here is where the Mississippi, the Ohio comes into the Mississippi. Here's the city of New Madrid, which I think is where St. Louis is, but I'm not sure of that. And down here is where the Arkansas comes into the Mississippi.
Right.
So this is the eastern side here, and on the western side, see, this is the Pacific Ocean. So this is where Portland, Oregon is, where Seattle is,
Right.
California. So that's the span of the continent, about half the continent, basically the West.
Right.
And but not all of it. There's a little on the south that's missing, and there's a bit of Canada at the top. And Sioux City is my hometown, is up the Missouri. So if you follow this up, you'll notice that this large river here that comes from the west is called the Platte, and it crosses Nebraska. And my hometown, if you go up the river some, you'll see there's a Mandan village here, where the Mandan Indians live. And just north of there, there's a little handwritten phrase that says Floyd's grave.
It's quite tiny.
It's tiny. If you didn't know to look there, you would not see it.
Wow.
And if you didn't know what you were reading, you probably couldn't read it. But I knew Floyd's grave was marked on this map. And next to it is a little squiggly line that goes north, and it's Floyd's River. And so the place that I grew up is right about here where the Floyd's River forks. If you look at it, the reverse of its flow, my hometown was about 6 blocks. My house was about 6 blocks from the river.
Wow.
And we used to walk over there all the time and play in the river. It was sometimes just a little nothing going through some lowlands, and in the spring it would fill and flood. It was always flooding a lot.
I'm curious. How did you find out that where you grew up was on this map? Something this small on this grand map.
Oh yeah.
Well, did somebody tell you, or did you happen to just come across it looking very closely at the map?
No. In Sioux City, Sergeant Floyd's grave is a big deal. And there's an obelisk-shaped monument to it made out of yellow brick, but in imitation of Washington's monument in D.C.
Right.
That marks where they think his grave might have been, up on the bluff overlooking the Missouri River, just at the south end of Sioux City. So thank you very much, Tubyez.
Thank you, Matt, for coming.
Really, really fun.
I really appreciate Matt coming by. Thank you for watching another episode of Beinecke Illuminated, and we will see you for the next episode. Thank you.
Bye, y'all. Thank you.